Are you tired of manually managing user permissions and struggling with the messy authorization logic? In this video, we are going to build a scalable, secure, centralized role-based access control system from scratch. Let me show you the topics that we are going to cover in this video. So we will first start with the React TypeScript app setup for our type-safe frontend. Then we are going to install the TanStack Router for seamless file-based routing. Next, we are going to have our data and the server setup. Once we have the server setup, we are going to define the centralized roles and permissions for clean and maintainable code. Next, we are going to have our Axios and API integration, and that will simulate the real-world scenarios. After that, we are going to have the authentication context using the context API. This context will help us to have the user login, logout, and permission features throughout our application. After that, we are going to have the TanStack protected routes, where we are going to protect our routes only for the authenticated users or the users which have the proper permissions. After that, we are going to have the dynamic UI rendering that will show or hide features based on the user roles and permissions. And in the end, we are going to test our complete role-based access control system for different users like admin, manager, users, or a guest user. By the end of this video, you will have a fully functional, production-ready, role-based access control system that is easy to extend. So if this sounds interesting, then stick around. Also, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so before we just jump to Visual Studio Code and start building our project, let's go through some slides and understand what will be our project structure, what routes we're going to make, what roles we are going to have, and what will be the permissions we are going to assign to these roles. So this is how our project is going to look like. We're going to have a React application. For the database, we are going to be using a JSON server. We are not going to make the actual API calls, but we will mock the APIs using the JSON server, where we will have the data in our db.json. Now our application will use this data in the db.json using the APIs that we are going to build. Then we have the components, some of the reusable components. We will put them here. We will have the context API, which is going to manage our authentication context throughout the application. Then we are going to have the routes. So we will be having some routes as the open routes and some routes as the protected routes. Then we are going to have the utils, where we are going to manage centrally all the roles and their permissions. And then we have the app.tsx file. Next, we will see that we're going to have these roles in our project. The roles would be the guest user, a user, manager user, and an admin user. And then the permissions will be to view a dashboard, view products, edit a product, and delete a product. And we're going to map the roles with the permissions. So a role can have a multiple permissions, or it can have a single permission. Then these are the routes that we are going to build, and we will be building the routes using the TanStack Router. So we're going to have a root route, and then there will be the auth routes like login and unauthorized access. So these routes, login and unauthorized, will be the public routes where you don't need any authentication. But then you have the index, dashboard, and products routes where you will need the authentication. So only authenticated users will be able to access these routes. We have an exception for the dashboard because we will be allowing to view the dashboard to the guest user also. Then if you are a user with a guest role, then you have a permission of view dashboard. If you are a user with a user role, then you can view a dashboard. You can also view the products and the product listing. If you are a manager, you can view dashboard, products, and you can edit a product. And if you are an admin, then you have an all access. You can just view the dashboard and you can manage the products like edit and delete. Now we have a basic sense of what project we are going to build. Let's go and jump into the Visual Studio Code. So this is the Visual Studio Code. I already have a project. I will just zoom a little bit. And this project is bootstrapped using Vite. I will go to this dependencies txt, and here are the npm commands that I have already used. So if you want to bootstrap your application, you can just use npm create Vite @latest. In our project, we will be using Tailwind CSS. So I'm using the Tailwind CSS dependency and a Tailwind CSS Vite plugin. Then we will be having this JSON server. So I have already installed JSON server globally into my machine. So you can just use npm install -g JSON server. We will be making an API call to our JSON server. So we are using Axios to make the API calls. Since we are using TanStack Router in this project, so we will be installing TanStack React Router and a plugin, TanStack Router plugin. Then let me show you these dependencies in the package.json file. So if you go in the package.json file, you see we have Axios, Tailwind CSS, TanStack Router. So we have all the dependencies here, and I have also installed these dependencies and running my project on a localhost 3000. So if I go to the browser and if I go here, then you will see that we have this our application running on localhost 3000. TanStack React Router role-based access control. If you want to know how you can install the TanStack Router into the project, I have a complete video on React TanStack Router, which you can just go through it and you will have a complete understanding of how TanStack Router file-based routing works, and that is what we are going to use in this project. Here is the official guide of TanStack Router, which will show you how you can install the TanStack Router. Now let's go back to the Visual Studio Code, and here I will just close everything. Now what I will do is I will go to the source, and here I'm going to create a file which is db.json. Now I will just minimize the terminal. Now here let's first create an object, and inside the object I will have the users array. Then I will also need to have a products array where we will have all our products. Now inside the products we are going to create different products. So we are going to have the array of objects. So the first product will be I will create the ID. Let me give the ID as 1. Then we are going to have the name, and let me give the name as iPhone 16. Then we are going to create price, and I will give the price as 999. Now I'm just going to copy it and create multiple products. So let me just quickly create all the products, and I'm going to change the values as well. Let's make it as 899, and I will have it this as 799. Okay, so this is how our product's going to look like. Now let's go and let's check how our users will look like. So let's make a user here, and this user is going to have the ID. So let me have the ID as 1, have the username as this is going to be admin. Next I'm going to have the password. So let me have the password as 123456. Then we are going to have a role, and the role will be admin. Then there will be an array of permissions, that what permissions this role has. So we are going to have the permissions, and which is going to be an array. In the permissions we are going to have the view dashboard. Then we are going to have the, so I will just do a copy paste. Then we are going to have the view products. So let me have the products. Then we are going to have the edit product. So I'm going to copy, put it here, and this is going to be edit. So let me have the edit product, and then we have a delete product. So let me have a delete product. All right, so this is a very simple user that we are going to have. I'm going to replicate, and I'm going to have the other users as well. So I will copy, put it here. So I'm going to just remove them. All right, so this is how our data looks like. We have a users and we have products. In the users we have 3 users, like the admin, we have the manager, and we have the user. In products we have 3 products. So that's how our data looks like. Now let's set up the JSON server. So since I have already installed the JSON server globally, I can just run the JSON server. So what I will do is I will go to a new tab here, and to run JSON server we will just have the JSON-server. Since I have installed globally, I can run it from anywhere. Then I'm going to have a -- watch. Then I will have the db.json file, and I'm going to give the port. So let's have the port as 3001. All right, so this is how it looks. We see that, oh okay, I missed the space. So let me add a space. So I will go here, and I'm going to add a space here. All right, now you see that we have 2 endpoints. We got the users, and we also got the products. If we want to go and check in our browser, then let's go and let's make a get call. So I'm going to hit here, and this is what the user looks like. If we go and check for the products, then this is how the products looks like. So we have our data at least ready. All right, now let's go back, and I'm just going to close this because we have the JSON server ready. All right, the next step what we want to do is let's define centrally all the roles. So I'm going to go here in the source, and in the source I'm going to create a util folder. So let's have the utils. So I'm going to have the utils, and inside the utils I'm going to create a file which will be the role.ts. So I will have the roles.ts. Okay, now in this roles.ts, what we will first do is let's have the export constant roles. So we are going to export all the roles first. So let me have a role as admin. Then we are going to have a role as manager. Then we are going to have a role as user, and we are going to have a role as guest. All right, if you are an admin, then this will be an admin. If you are a manager, this will be a manager. If you are a user, this will be user, and if you're a guest, then this will be guest. Now we are managing this centrally because tomorrow we have one more role, then we just have to change everything in this roles.ts file. We don't have to go to the different files and making a change at multiple places. So this is how we managing it centrally. Now these are our roles. Similarly, we will be having our permissions, and the permission will be view dashboard. Then we are going to have a view products. So let me change this to products. Okay, next will be the edit products and delete products. So I'm going to change this to edit product, and this will be delete product. Okay, we have to add the values here. So I will go to db.json and just copy paste so that I don't make mistakes. So first I'm going to do a view dashboard. So copy and put it here. Okay, so I have all the permissions. Now let's create a third constant which will have a mapping of a role with the permissions. So I'm going to have the export constant roles underscore permissions, and this will be equals to the object. Now I'm going to give the type of it. So let me have a record, and this will be of type string, and it will be an array. So I will have this is as a string, and this will be an array of string. So this can be an admin, and this can be the permissions that admin has. All right, so I'm going to have it here. First, let's have the roles.admin. So what an admin can have. Now next I'm going to have the roles.manager, and this manager can have some permissions here. Then I'm going to have the roles.user, and last we are going to have the roles.guest. Okay, so here we can see the permissions. Now if you want to see the permissions, we know that these are the permissions an admin role can has. So let's copy that all. So I'm going to have here her permission dot view dashboard. All right, I will have the permission dot view products. So this way I will just map all the permissions with the roles. All right, so I have mapped everything. I have the admin roles and their role permissions. I have the manager, their permissions, user and guest. So this part is done. The next what we will do is let's have our authentication setup, because we have to build the centralized authentication for this project. So we are going to use the context API. So I'm going to close this, I'm going to close this, and it's time for the auth context. So I will create a folder which will be context, and in this I'm going to create a file with authcontext.tsx. Okay, now in this, the first thing we do is we create an auth context. So let me have the auth context, and this auth context is equals to the create context. Okay, and initially our context is null. Now once we have the auth context, we need to create a provider. So let's have the auth provider, and this auth provider will take the children's as a prop. So I'm going to have the children, and once we have this has to return something. So let's return something from here. So I'm going to have a return. I will have the auth context dot provider, and inside this we are going to have the children's. So let me have the children's here, and this auth provider also have the values that we want to provide. So we are going to have a values here. And at last, if we want to access our auth context, we can just use context. So I will have the export constant use auth, and this can be an arrow function. And here what we can do is we can just simply have a constant context. Let's take the context. We can use the use context hook, and we can provide our auth context here. And here we can just have that if we can make a check, there is no context, that means we have to throw an error. So let's have a throw new error, and we can say that use auth must be used within an auth provider. All right, and then we can just return our context. So let's have the return context. So this is a very simple auth context that we have done. Now you will see that there are some complaints here, children, and we don't have any values here. So what we can do is let's create the type first. So I'm going to create the interface here, and let me have the interface auth context type. Okay, now in this interface what we will have is this will contain all the values that we are going to provide from this auth context provider. The first thing is we need to manage the user state. So let me have the user state, and this will be of type user, or it will be a type of null. We will also have to define the interface for the user. Now this auth context will also give us the login. So let me have a login which will be of type function, and I'm going to have a void. Then we are going to have a logout. So let me have a function, and this will also return a void. And then we are going to have a function which is going to check that a particular user has a permission on its permission array or not. So I will have a has permission, and this is going to accept a permission. So let me have a permission. This will be of type string, and in return it is going to return us a boolean value. Is it true or false? Let's create an interface for the user also. So I will have a export interface, user, and on the user we have the ID, then we are going to have the username, we are going to have the password, and then we are going to have the role, and in the end we are going to have the permissions array. So this is going to be a string array. All right, this permission is actually this permission we have. So I'm going to copy, put it here. Okay, for the role it will be a string, for the password it will be a string, and for the username it will be a string, and we have the ID, which is also a string. Okay, so we have the user here, and we also have the auth context type, which contains a state of the user and the login, logout, and has permission function. Now what we will do is we are going to use this auth context type for this type here. So I'm going to have the auth context type. If not, this can also have a null value. Okay, for the children, let's have the type. So we will be having a children of type React node. So this React node will come from the TanStack router. Okay, now we also have to define the values. So to have the values here, first we need to manage the state. So let me have the constant user set user, and this is going to equals to the use state of type user, or it can also have a null value. All right, initially it will be a null. Now we have the user, let's have a login function. So I will have a constant login, which is going to be an arrow function. All right, now in this login we are going to get the user data that is logged in. So it will be of type user, and once we get the user data we will set it in our state. So I will have the set user, and we are going to have the user data. Okay, next is the logout function. So let me have a constant logout, and in this we are not going to get anything. Just whenever a user uses a logout function, we are simply going to clear the state. So I will have the set user, and I will pass the null. So we have no user in our state now. And the last one was the has permission. So I will have the constant has permission. It is an arrow function, and it accepts the permission. So let me have the permission of type string. Now what this will do is this is going to check this permission into the user state, which we have this user, and this user has a permission array. So we have to check that. All right, so I will go here, and we are going to return a boolean from here. So we will have the user, that if there is a user and if there is a permissions array on that user, then in that case you have to check whether the permission is there or not. So let me have the permission. If it's there, it will return true. If not, it will return a false from here. All right, so now we have all the function and the state here. Let's pass them in the values. So I'm going to have a value here, and it will be an object. I will pass my user, then I will pass my login function, I will pass the logout function, and I will pass the has permission. Okay, we see that something is wrong. If I go and check, this logout has a user data, but we did not define it here. So let me have the user. Okay, so our context API is ready. Now we can just make use of it. Now next is before we go and create our routes, let's go and let's work on the APIs as well, which we are going to use to make an API call in our project. So I'm going to go to the source, and inside the source let me create a directory API as a folder. All right, inside the API I'm going to have the index.ts. Okay, now in the index.ts, first let's import the Axios. So I'm going to have the import Axios from Axios. Then I'm also going to create a base URL. So let me have the base URL of our API. So what I will do is I will go here, and we see this is our base URL. So I'm going to copy and put our base URL here. Okay, now we need to create a interface for the user and the product. For the user we have already created in the auth context, and we have exported it, so we can use it directly. So let's create a interface for the products. So I'm going to have the export interface product, and in this we are going to have the ID, which will be of type string. Then we are going to have the name of the product, which is also a string. Then we are going to have a price, and the price would be number. I will just correct the price spelling. All right, so we have the interface. Now we have to create three functions. One will be the login user, second one will be fetch products, and the third one will be delete product. We are not going to do for the edit product, because edit product I will just do an alert that you can edit a product, because that is not the focus of this video. We have to more focus on how we do the access and the role-based access control. Okay, now for the login, let's create the function. So I will have a export constant login, which is going to be an arrow function. Now I'm going to change this to async, and when you log in you will receive a username which is of type string. Then you will also need a password which is also a type string. Okay, and then this function will return a promise. So let me have a return type here, and I will have a return promise, and the promise will be of user, or it can be a null. Okay, so we have that. Now let's make an Axios call. So I will have a try catch block here. So let me have a try catch block, and in the try I will have a constant. I will have a response which will be equals to the await Axios get. This is of type user array, and then we have to pass the base URL. So let me have the API underscore URL, which is our base URL, and we will have the slash users. Okay, now along with this we also need to pass the path param. Since it's a get API, so we are passing it as a path param. My params will be, so let me have the params, and those will be username, password. Okay, so we have the username and the password. Now once we get the response we will return. So let me have a return, and we are going to return the response dot data, but we will only return the first match. So let me have this first match, and if there is nothing then we will have a null. For the error, what I will do is I will have a console.log. We will have login failed, have the error here, and we are going to return the null because if it's an error. Okay, now when we do the user we see that the user is okay. Let me have the user, and we have the user as well. All right, so this is how we are going to do it for the login. Now the next one is the fetch products. So what I will do is I will simply do a copy paste. So I will copy, go here, put the here, and this is going to change to get product. Okay, to get a product we will not be passing anything, and this is the product array. All right, for the try we will have a response. This will get changed to product array, and this is going to change to products. Okay, there will be no path param, so I'm going to remove this, and once we get the response we will just have a response dot data, and here we are going to have failed to fetch products. We will just put a error here, then we return the null. All right, and the last one is the delete. So I will just do a copy and put it here. This will get changed to delete product. So let me have the delete product. It will just return a void because we are just going to delete, we are not going to return anything. So let me have the void, and to delete a product we have to pass the ID. So let me have the ID of the product. Okay, once we have it we will just do a await, and we will do a delete, and I will remove this, and let me pass the dollar and the ID which we want to delete. So I will have the ID here, and there will be no return because we are not returning anything from here, and I will also remove this, and here I will simply have failed to delete product, and then we have the error. All right, so we have our functions ready here. Now in this function you can see that we have the login user, we have fetch products, and we have the delete product, so which we can just use it whenever we have our routes ready. All right, so we have done with this. The next thing is now we can start building our routes using the TanStack Router. So what I will do is I will close this, and I will close this. Now if I go here and if I show you, then if you want to create a routes using the TanStack Router, what you can do is you need to create a routes directory, then you can create these files. As mentioned that I already have a complete tutorial on TanStack Router. You can just click on the card above, or you can check out the link in the description of the video, and you can just go through it. All right, so let me go and create the routes folder. So I'm going to close this, and I will go here, and let's have the routes folder. So I will have the routes folder. Now inside the routes folder, first I need to create a root route. So let me have underscore underscore root dot tsx. Now when I create, you see that I automatically gets my file based routing. Now inside this I'm going to create a underscore auth folder, and inside this auth folder I will have all my public routes. So for my public routes what I will do is I'm going to have the login.tsx, then I also have the unauthorized.tsx. So I will have the unauthorized.tsx. Now I'm going to create another folder which will be protected. So I'm going to have underscore protected, and in this I'm going to have different routes. First will be the index.tsx. okay, then I'm going to have the dashboard.tsx. so I will have the dashboard.tsx, and the last one I want is the products, to display the products. So I will have the products.tsx. all right, now I have all my file based routes. Now if we want to display these routes into our app.tsx, what we have to do is let's create a router. So I'm going to go here, and let me create a file which will be router.tsx. all right, now inside the router.tsx what we can do is if we go and see here, then we can just create this router.tsx like this. I'm going to copy this, and I will put it here. Okay, I will just do an export default and I will have the router. So let me export the router. All right, now you will notice here, okay, let's import this also first, the router. All right, now you will notice here is that you have a root tree which is imported, which is from the route tree.gen, and you will see that this is the route tree.gen file, which is built using the routes that we have defined in our routes directory. And how it is built is, if I go to the terminal, let me, yeah, here you will see that as soon as I created the routes folder and then I saved and created all the routes, every time it do a regenerating routes, because if you make a change, it will regenerate the routes, and it is updating the files, and then based on that it is creating the routetree.gen.ts, which is a auto generated file. Now we have this, if we want to see these routes on our browser, we have to put them in the app.tsx. So what I will do is, currently if we go and check, we have only this one on the app.tsx. Let's remove that. So I'm going to go here, I will remove it, and let me have the route provider, and this has a prop which is called a router, and let's have our router which we have created. Okay, if we go and check, you see that we are on the root, and then we have our child route as a login. If I go to a dashboard, then you see that we have a dashboard. If I go to products, we see we have the products. Similarly, if I go to the home, then we see a root and we see this is a protected. All right, so that means our routes are now working. Now first let's start by writing the navbar, and this navbar will be in our root route. So let's go back and let's go to the root route. So I'm going to go here, and this is the root route. In the root route, we need to have a navbar. So to create a navbar, I will go and create a components folder. So let me have the components folder. Inside the components folder, I'm going to create my navbar. So I will have the navbar.tsx. I will do RSC to get the component. All right, now we have the navbar component. We can just use it here. So I'm going to remove this. I will have a navbar which I have created here, and I will also put the HR horizontal line there. So I will go here and I will have the HR. Let me have the class name, and the class name I want to give the border. So let me have border gray 300. Now let's go and let's work on the navbar. So I will go to the navbar, and inside the navbar, let's remove this and let's have a nav element. So I will have the nav, and this will be nav. Okay, on the navbar I will give some class names. So let me have the hidden. I will give the medium device as flex, space x as 6, margin on x-axis 4, and padding on y-axis 3. Okay, now inside this we can create all our links. So you have a link component in the TanStack router where you have a link and you can define what you want. So I will have the dashboard here. Okay, and now on this we can have a 2, and this 2 will be where you want to take. So when you click on it, you have to go to a dashboard. Okay, I will just do a copy paste. So I will copy, put it here. Then you're going to have the products. You will have the products here. You will go to the login, then you will have a login. And for the logout, let me create a button. So I'm going to have a button, and inside the button, I will just have the logout, and let me have this on click here. So on click, I want to do a handle logout. Okay, now this handle logout we have to do. Let's write the function. So I'm going to go here, and I will have the constant handle logout. All right, and when you click on it, what you want to do is you logged out, and then you have to navigate back to the dashboard, or you can also go back to the login, whichever you want. So to do the logout, what we do is we already have a context API, and there is a function logout. So we are going to use this function to log out. So what I will do is I will have a constant. I will have the log out, and this will be coming from the use auth. Okay, so whenever you click on the logout button, you first do a logout, and after that you will just do a navigate. So if you want to navigate, you have to make use of a use navigate hook. So I will have a navigate, and this will be use navigate. All right, now we can just make use of it. So I will have a navigate, and this navigate also have a 2 on it, and we can just go to the dashboard. All right, so we are done with this. Now if we want to go and check, let's go. If I go here, okay, so we see an error that use auth must be used within an auth provider, and that's true. What we have done a mistake here is, if we go here, then we have our auth context here, and we are using this use auth, but we haven't added the auth provider in our app.tsx. If I go here, then we can just go here and we can have the auth provider, And inside the auth provider, we can just have our router. Okay, if I go and check now, then if I click here, we go to the dashboard, we go to the products, we go to the login. If I click on the logout, we go back to the dashboard. So at least this part is working. Now we will first start by writing the JSX for the login, how the login looks like, because once we have a login, then we will be able to decide which navbar items we have to display to the logged in user and to a logged out user. Okay, so let's go back. So I will go back here, and in this first we will start writing by the login.tsx. So in the login.tsx, I will first have my state variables. So I will have a username and a password. So let me have a username. I will have the set username. This will be equals to the use state. Type will be string and initial value will be empty string. Okay, so I see use state is not imported. Okay, now it's imported. We will have a similar for the password also. We need to handle the password. So let me have the password. This gets changed to set password. Okay, now let's go for the JSX part. So for the JSX part, what I will do is I'm going to have a div. Let me give a class name on this div. I'm going to have a flex column, and then my items to be in the center, and I have a padding of 10. Okay, inside this, let's create the form. So we will have the form. On the form, we need to provide a on submit function. So let me have the handle submit. Okay, let's create this handle submit. So I will have a constant handle submit, and this is going to be an arrow function. Okay, I will also give some classes to the form. So I will have the class as width full, and the max width will be smaller device. Okay, so we have that. Now let's create the label, and so I will have a div. Inside the div, I'm going to have a label, username, and we are going to have the input. So let me have the input. Okay, now on this div, I'm going to give the classes. For medium device, I'm going to have the flex. Medium device items would be in center, and then we have margin bottom as 6. Okay, let's give me classes to the labels. So I'm using all this Tailwind CSS classes so that we can get a little bit nice UI. So I'm going to give the width as 1/3 for the label. Then the label will be block. The text color would be gray, and then I'm going to have the font as bold. Okay, now we need to give a classes to the username. So let me have a classes here. Since we are using 1/3 here, let me use 2/3 on this. Okay, so I will have a 2/3. I will have a border. I will have rounded. I will have width as full. I will have padding on y-axis as 2 and padding on x-axis as 3. Okay, if we go and check, then we see something is here. All right, and we see the label is very okay. Let's change this to 7. Okay, now on this, let's have the type. So I'm going to have type as text. I will have the value. So the value would be username. Then I'm going to have the placeholder. So let me have a placeholder. I will have the enter username, and then I'm going to have the on change. So for the on change, we are going to get the event, and we are going to have the set user. So this is pretty standard how we handle the form in React. Target dot value. All right, so we have this. If we go and check, okay, this looks a little bit nice. Let's create the password field also. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to change the username. So I will have the change everywhere. So this will get changed to password. Okay, and this will be lowercase. So I will have the lowercase p here, and I have lowercase p here. Okay, and this text type text will also be the password. Okay, in the last we will create the button. So let me have a div. Inside the div, we are going to have a button, and this button will be log in. I will have the type, and the type would be submit. And let's give some classes to this. So I will have the background blue 400. I will have the border. I will have rounded. My text should be white color. And then let me give the padding as 2, and width for the medium device, it will be width as 2/3. Okay, and let's give some class to the div. So I will have the class name, and here I will have the medium device would be flex, and medium device I want to give the justify end. Okay, let's go and let's check. Okay, so our form looks nice now. If I click on the login, then you will see that it will just refresh and give it to the login. Now it's refreshing because we haven't used the event.prevent default. So let's go and let's work on that. So I'm going to change this to 600. Now let's go and let's work on the on submit. So if I go here, then on submit, we are going to get an event which will be react.form event. Oops, it should be form event. and then what we will do is event dot prevent default, then it will not refresh our page. Now here we will make a check that if there is no username, in that case we are going to return alert, and here we will have invalid credentials. Okay, but if we have a username, then in that case let's make an Axios call. So I'm going to have a constant, I will get back a user and I will make a call, so it will be await. So let's have this async, and we are going to make await, and let's have the login function API call. So this is the login function API call which we have already created. So if we go here, not here, if we go to the API index, then we already have a login function here. So we are using that same function. On this function, we have to pass the username and we pass the password. Okay. Now, once we get this user, what we do is we take this user and we set it in our auth context, because this is what our auth context is. We have to set the logged in user in the auth context. To log this, what we will do is we are going to make use of this login function, which will take the user and then it will set it in the context. So I will go here, and to get that, what I will do is I will have a constant, I will have a login. So there is two login. So let's change this to auth login, so that we don't get confused, and this will coming from the use auth. Okay, now let's go here and see that if the user is successful logged in, then in that case what we will do is we will first set the user in the auth context. So let me pass the user here, and along with that I'm going to navigate the user to the dashboard, because user is now successfully logged in. So I'm going to go here and let me have, okay, so to make use of a navigate, we have to use the use navigate hook. So let me have the navigate use navigate hook, and now we can make use of a navigate here. So let me have a navigate to, and want to take the user to a dashboard. All right, but if this is not the case, then in that case there is a failure. So what I will do is I'm going to have a alert, and it will be the same invalid credentials. So I'm just going to copy, put it here, and then we will just clear the fields. So let's clear the username and the password. So I'm going to clear the username, I'm going to clear the password. All right, so our login is completely ready. Now we can give a try. So what I will do is let's go back and let's give a try. So I'm going to have a admin, I'm going to have a password for the admin, and I will go to the network tab. Okay, if I click on login, then you see we go to the dashboard, and here is our API. So we are making this API call and we get a response. So let me take this up, then we get a response, we get this ID, username, and everything. All right, now we can just use the user which is in the context API throughout our application. So let's go and let's see. If I go to the dashboard and if I just do a constant, I will have the user coming from the use auth. Okay, and if I do a console log, so I will have a console.log, and I will have the user here. Okay, then if I go to the console, then you see that we get the user information. So that means we can now use the user everywhere. Now what I will do is I will take this user and go to my Navbar, and I will do a conditional display of the nav items. I want to display products only to the logged in user. All right, because if you are a guest user, you don't have to go to the products, you first have to log in. So what we will do is let's go back to Visual Studio Code and let's go back to the Navbar. Now in the Navbar we have the logout, we will also have the user from now. Okay, and now here we can just have a conditional display. So what I will do is that if you have a user, if that's true, you have to display something. If not, you have to display something. So if the user is logged in, I want to display the user products. So I will have a empty fragment here, I will display products. All right, and I will also display the user the logout button, because if you are logged in, then only you can log out. So I'm going to cut this and I'm going to put it here. All right, now I will just remove this products from here. But if this is not the case, then I want to display this. So I will cut this and I'm going to put it here. All right, so you see that we have a condition. If a user is logged in, that means we are a logged in user, we show them products and log out. But if you're not logged in, then we show them login and a dashboard. Let's go and let's check. If I go back here, I'm just going to minimize this. Then this is a logged in user. So we see products and logout. If I click on logout, we only see dashboard and login. All right. Now here one more thing is that if you are already on a dashboard, you don't want to see a dashboard. You only want to see login. And if you are already on a login, you don't want to see a dashboard. So we can do that with the help of a use match route in the TanStack router. Let's go and let's do that. So I will go here, and here what I will do is I'm going to have constant. I will have match route, and we can use of a use match route. Okay, and then what we will do is I'm going to have the constant is login page. Then we just have to match that. Let's have the match route, and what we are matching is we are matching that if the 2 is /login, this will show us that yes, we are on the login, and it will return a boolean. So this will get only match whenever you on the login route. So let me copy this, and I'm going to go here, and here I'm going to create a condition. If this is true, I want to display something. If this is false, I want to display something. If you are on a login, you want to display a dashboard. So let me cut this and display a dashboard. If you are on a dashboard, you want to display the login. Okay, let's go back and check. Now you see that you are on a login, so you can only go to the dashboard. You are on a dashboard, you can only go to the login. So that's how we can just do this part. Now the next thing what we want to do is, we already have the login, but if I try to go on the products from here, then you see that we go on the products, but we have to protect this route because you can only go to the products if you are a logged in user. So in this case, we have to protect this route. So for this, what we will do is we will use the protected routes. So let's go and let's write the protected routes part. So I will go back here, and we have to create the protected route. So I'm going to go here and let's create a file which will be protected routes.tsx. All right, I will just do rsc and get the route here. Okay, now for the protected route, what we want is, we always want the children as a prop. So you have to pass the children which you want to protect. After that, you will also need to pass the permission, whether there is a permission to access this route or not. And let's have the type of it. So I'm going to have the type as, let's have the children. So I will have the children as react.react node. Okay, then we're going to have the permission. So let me have the permission. I'm going to copy this here, and the permission will be of type string array. Okay, now we have this. Now let's take the values of the user and the has permissions from the context. So I will have the user, and I will also have the has permission, and this will be coming from the use auth. Okay, now what I will do is, I will also do a console log of it. So let me have the console.log, and I'm going to have the user as user. Okay, so that I can see whether the user value is correct or not. So after this, now here are some of the conditions that we have to match. So what are those conditions is, first we have to do allow guest user. Okay, if we have to take a value which is the allow guest, and this is true. Okay, so maybe for the guest user, let's take one more parameter which will be allow guest, and this will be false. It will all make sense in some time, but first let's write this protected route. So I will have here allow guest, and this will be a boolean. All right, now it could be that sometimes we don't pass a permission, or sometimes we don't pass a allow guest, so we make them optional properties. So I will have the optional properties. All right, so the first will be that allow the guest user if allow guest is true. The next we want is, we need to redirect a user, redirect to login if the user is not authenticated. All right, so if a user is not authenticated, we have to redirect them to the login. The third one will be that redirect to unauthorized. Redirect to unauthorized if the user lacks required permission. So here is actually, we are setting it all the conditions, different conditions. All right, and the last what I feel is that render the children if the user is authenticated and has permissions. Okay, so we have to manage all these four cases. The first case is, of course, we have to allow the guest user if the allow guest value is true. So for that, what we will do is, I'm going to have a check here, and I will have the allow guest. So if the user is empty but the allow guest is true, that means you haven't logged any user, and it's just that we are trying to access our application as a guest user. In that case, we will do a return children, because a guest user can see a dashboard. Although he cannot see the other parts of the application, but he still can see a dashboard. So this is what the condition I have for the allow guest user. Now the next one is, we want to redirect to the login if you are not authenticated. So for that if we don't have a user, that means the user is empty, in that case redirect it to the, so I will have the return, let's have a navigate, and navigate to login. All right, so we will have /login. Now the third case is that you are a logged in user but you don't have the permissions, so you should be redirected to an unauthorized access. All right, so for that, what I will do is that if permissions, so this will be permissions. I'm going to copy, and I will also paste it here so that I don't make a mistake. So if the permissions and permissions dot every, let's take an individual permission, and this is returning true. So let's let's pass that individual permission to the has permission, and if it gets true, that means we can allow. And if it's, so I will have a p here. All right, so what we will do is we are passing some permissions, and then we are matching that permission with the individual permission, which is the has permission. Okay, and then you will just redirect the user. So I will come here. Okay, and here what we will do is let's return. So I'm going to have a return, and we are going to return the user to a unauthorized because he don't have permission to access the route. So I'm going to have slash unauthorized. All right, now the last case is that everything is working fine, you are authenticated and you also have the permission. In that case, you're simply going to return the children. So let me have a children. So we have this return children. Now what we will do is, first, before implementing the protected routes, let's write the JSX part of our all the routes. So let's go with the unauthorized TSX. So for the unauthorized TSX, what I will do is I'm going to remove this, and then I'm going to have a div. I will give a class name to this div as P10. Then I'm going to have a h2 paragraph, and inside the h2 what I will do is I will have unauthorized access. Okay, let me give a class name here. The class name will be text 4xl, font bold, and margin bottom 2. All right, and below that what I will do is I'm going to have a paragraph tag. Here I'm going to have you do not have permission to access this page. So I will have a class name here, and this will be text gray 400, or let me give it 800. Okay, now we will also put the links that if you are on an unauthorized page, either you can go to a dashboard or you can go to the login. So I'm going to have a link here. 2 will be slash dashboard, and this will be go to, also go back to dashboard. All right, let me give a class name here. So I will have a class name as text blue 400. All right, and then I will have a break tag here, and then I will again have one more link which will can take you to the login. Okay, so this will go to the go back to login, and this will be login. All right, if you want to check, then let's go and let's check. So I will go this, and I will have the unauthorized, and this is how it looks like. Unauthorized access, you do not have a permission to access this page. Either you go back to dashboard or you go back to login. All right, we go back to the dashboard. Now we have this one. The next we want to do is the let's write a JSX for our dashboard as well. Okay, so for the dashboard we have the auth here, and what I will do is for the dashboard, let me have a div first. Let me have a div, and I'm going to give a class name on this div which will be very similar p. Okay, so what I will do is I will just copy paste because it's a very similar. So I'm going to copy this. I will go and put it here, and I will close this div. Okay, I have a P10, and then I will have a here as let me have this welcome, and if it's a logged in user, I can just use this user. If the user is there, then I will just use the user role or username. Okay, let's use the username. All right, and then here I can have the role. Let's have the role, and let's see what the role is. So I will have the user. If you have the user, then you can also have the role. Okay, so this is what we see, but this we only want to display if a user is logged in user, but if it's a guest user, we have to display the guest. All right, so what I will do is I'm going to have a condition here, user. If this user is true, I want to display something. If this user is not true, I want to display something else. Okay, I will have this one, and I will just cut this and put it here. But if that's not the case, then in that case I'm going to put this here. Okay, and here it will be the welcome guest, and for the role it will be that no role assigned to you. All right, so we also have the dashboard part. Now if we go and check, then you see now we are on the dashboard. If I go here, then we see we are on the login, we are on the protected. We still haven't fixed this part. We will do it once we implement the protected routes. Okay, so now if I go to a dashboard, then we see the welcome guest, no role assigned to you. But if I log in, so let me log in to admin, then you see welcome admin, and your role is admin, and you can also go to the products page now, and you can just go to logout and you go back to the dashboard with the welcome guest. Now let's go and let's work on this protected part. So if we want to add the protected route, what we will do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to remove this. Okay, and here I'm going to change this to a arrow function. Now in this function, what I will do is I'm going to use my protected route. So I will have the protected routes. All right, and inside the protected route, I'm going to pass my route component. Okay, now for the products also, I'm going to do the same. So let me go to the products. All right, and in the products, I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to remove this. I will go here and I will come here. Okay, now I'm going to have the protected routes here. So let me have the protected routes. All right, now inside the protected routes, I can have my route component. All right, and I want that this can only be visible if you have the permission. So if the permission is let me have the permission dot view products. Okay, if you have a permission of view product, you will go to the products page, but anyway we have already protected our products route only for the logged in users. All right, let's go and let's check now. So if I go back here and if I go to the this one, then I see this as protected, but we want to redirect it to the dashboard. So I will go back to the index, and in the index I will just remove this, and here what I will do is I'm going to go to an arrow function, and inside the arrow function I'm going to return. So I will return the protected route. All right, and inside the protected route we are going to have the navigate. So we want to navigate it to that component. So I will have the 2. Okay, and in this 2 I can just navigate to dashboard. All right, let's go back and check now. If I go to the dashboard, I see the dashboard, but I don't see the content of it because we have to make this as allow guest. Okay, and for the dashboard also we want to make it as an allow guest. So let me have the allow guest. Now what I will do is I will go to the protected route, and here I will just check the value. So if I have the allow guest, and let's have the value of allow guest here also. So I will have the allow guest. All right, now let's go and let's check. So if I remove this, then I see the allow guest is true, but still I don't see the data on the dashboard. So if I go back and let's go and let's check the dashboard. Yep, I made a mistake here. So this will be the rounded brackets, and I can remove this. All right, now if I go and check, then we see that we have the welcome guest, no role is assigned. If I click on the login, let me log in with admin. I will give the password. If I click on the login, then you see that we have the welcome admin, and we also see the admin role. If I click on the products, then we don't see anything because we have to work on the products page. If I click on the logout, then we go here. Now there is one problem we need to solve, which is that if I have the admin, and let me have the password, and if I click on it, then you see that we have in the admin, we have logged in with the admin, but if I refresh my page, then my state gets lost. So what we will do is we will put the state in the local storage, and then we can just retrieve it from there, and we clear only when we do a logout. So let me go back, and here in the auth context I will just make some modifications. So in the auth context, whenever I have this set user, I will also like to set it in the local storage. So local storage set item, I want to set the user, and let me have the JSON dot stringify, and I will put the value as user data. All right, and when we do the logout, during the logout I will have to clear the local storage. So I will have the local storage dot remove item, and let's remove the user. Okay, and the initial state, I have to define the initial state also. So initially we will check from the local storage. So what I will do here is I'm going to have a arrow function, and then I'm going to have the constant to check the stored user from the local storage. So I will have the local storage dot get item, and let's get the item by user. All right, if you find it, then in that case what we will do is we are going to return the state. So if you have the stored user, then in that case let's have the JSON dot parse, and we have the stored user, but in case we don't have it, then we pass it as null. Oops, this will be colon. Now we will not face this problem. So let me refresh it. Let me go to the login. Let me have the admin. We're going to have the admin password, and I logged in, and you can see that if I go to the applications and local storage, I have the user here, and I also have the user data persisted. All right, so if case now I refresh it, I will still retrieve my user state. All right, so this problem is now fixed. Now what we want to do is if we go to the products, we have to display the products, and based on the permission we have to see whether a user can edit it, delete it, or view it. Okay, let's go to the products page. So I'm going to go to the products. Okay, so now in the products we first want to load our data. So to load the data, what we can do is okay, we have to make this round brackets, otherwise we will again get the error. Okay, so now for loading the data we will use the loader, and we are going to have the async, and we are going to return the await get products. So let me have this. So this is how we will just load the data. We make the API call. Now if we want the data here, what I will do is I will have a constant data. This will be equals to the route dot use loader data. All right, now I can just go and simple do a console.log and I can log the data. Let's go and let's check, do we get the data or not? So in TanStack Router, this is one of the nicest way of doing it, instead of writing the use effect and then having a state and then doing all this stuff. So now we can go and check. So if I go here and if I refresh it, then we see we get the data here. So that's how it's easy to get the data using a TanStack router. So we have used the loader. Now let's go and let's do the JSX part. So I'm going to go here, and here first I will have to let me go to the index, and in the index I will just do a copy of this. So let me copy these two. I will go to the products. I'm going to have a div and I will put it here. Okay, I will remove these two and I'm going to have a class name as padding 10. Okay, I'm going to change this to products and I will change this to here is the product list. So if we go and check, then we see here is the product list. Now let's loop through the products and display the products here. I will have a unordered list. I will have my data, or maybe I will just rename it. So this can be renamed as products and I can use this products here. So products dot map, and in this what we will do is if we have a individual product which is of type product, then in that case we will do an li. Let's have a key on it, so it will be product.id. We can also give some classes here. So I will give the class as text gray 600, border gray 300, padding 2, and width on medium device is 1/3. This will be width. Okay, so I will have the product dot name space hyphen, I'm going to use dollar, and I'm going to have again product dot price. Now with this I will also put the buttons to edit and delete it. So what I will do is I'm going to go here and I will have the button. So I will have the button and I will give it as edit. Now let me give a class name to this button. So this will be background blue 500 rounded full. Then I'm going to give the padding on x-axis as 5, padding on y-axis as 1.5. Text should be white color, margin right 3 and margin left 3. If we go and check, then we see that we have the edit buttons here. So the next thing what we will do is we have the edit button, and on this button what we will do is let's have this type as button, and we also need to have an on click. So we will have an on click, and on the on click we are not having any function here, so I will just do an alert. So the alert would be edit dollar and we have our product name, so we will have the product dot name. So if we go and if we click on it, then we can just edit this products like this. Okay, since we are logged in with an admin and admin have an access to edit the products. The next we will need is we will also do a delete. So if I go and have another button, and this button will be delete button, and I'm going to use the classes. So let me have the background red 500 rounded full, padding on x-axis 5, padding on y-axis as 1.5, and the text should be white. Okay, and this will also have a type as button. So let me have the type as button, and let's give the on click as well because we already have an API to delete. So I'm going to have the on click, and here what I will do is I'm going to have the event and I will have the handle delete and give the product. So I will have the product dot id and I will have the event. Okay, so if I go and check, then I see that I have the edit and I have the delete. Okay, so delete I will make it a little bit darker, so let's make it 8. So we have the edit and the delete. Now we have to write this handle delete function. So let's go and let's write that. So I will go here, I will have constant handle delete, and this is going to be an async function. I will have an arrow function here, and the values which I get as a parameter is the ID, which is a number, and then we get the event, which is a react dot mouse event. Okay, and this is actually a string. All right, so we have these two. Now next what we will do is let's have the event dot prevent default, and then we will do that if has permission. So we are checking whether the user has a permission or not. So to get the has permission, we first have to get the function. So I will have a constant, we will have the user, and we are going to have the has permission, and this will be equals to the use auth. Okay, and now we are going to do that if is has permission, and we will check the permission. So permission dot delete product, and if this is false, then in that case what we will do is we will have a navigate. So let's have the use navigate. So I'm going to have a constant navigate is equals to the use navigate. Okay, so in this case we will have a navigate, and let's go to two, and this will be equals to the slash unauthorized. So in this case, I mean, if you don't have an access to delete, you should go to the unauthorized, and then you can just return from here. Let me have the return. All right, now if that is not the case, then in that case what you will do is you will just have a confirmation that you really want to delete. So I will have a window.confirm, and here I will have, are you sure you want to delete this product? And if we say yes, then in that case we will do await. We'll make the API call delete product, and we are going to pass the ID products dot filter, and then we are going to filter out the product. So we will have the product dot ID not equal to ID. All right, so this is what we will do. We are not making a use of user, so I will just remove it. So I will save it. All right, now let's go and let's check. So we have this. If I click on the delete, you will see, are you sure you want to delete? I will just cancel it for now, and now I will show you what happens. So let me log out and I go to dashboard. So this is a guest user. Let me go and let me check the normal user. So I have a normal user. I will log in. You see, I am logging with the user and my role is user. I can view the product. So I will click on the products, and you see that I have the access. I can see the edit. I can also see the delete. Now, if I click on the edit, then it allows me to edit. So we will check whether our user have edit access or not. So if I go to the data, so let me go to the data, let's go to db.json, and in the db.json we can see that we have an access. A user can have access of a view dashboard and a view products, but he is not having access to edit a product, but still we are able to edit the product. That means something is not correct. So let's go and let's check in the products. All right, so the one thing we can do is that we don't show the edit at all to the user. So if I want to do that, what I will do is, if I don't want to show the edit to the user at all, then in that case I will come here and I will check the permission. So I will have the has permission dot edit product. If this is true, then in that case we display the button. So what I will do is I'm going to take this, cut and put it here. All right, now let's go and let's check. So here now if you go and see, then my user doesn't have any edit, but if we try to click on the delete, then he said you are not authorized to delete this record. I will go back to the dashboard. I will go back to the products. So one way, either you show the button and then you navigate the user to unauthorized access, or you don't show the button at all. So we have doing both the cases. So I am not showing the edit button, but I'm showing the delete button. So for delete, it will go to the unauthorized access, but for edit, I'm not showing the button. So anyway, he cannot click on the edit button. Okay. If I log out and let's do a manager. So I'm going to have a manager, and let me have the password. Now, if I click on the product, I see the manager can see the edit button because manager has a permission of edit. If we go here and in the db.json, if our manager, all right, for the manager, what we will do is we will just remove this. Okay. And now if I go to the logout, let me go to the manager again. Okay, if I go to products, then you see the manager is not able to see the button here. But if we add the permission back, so let me add the permission back, then this case, let me go and check. So I will have the manager. I will click login. Now if I go to the products, I can see that edit, and the manager can edit. All right. However, the manager cannot delete. So if I click on it, I will still get unauthorized access because I cannot delete this. Let's go back to the dashboard. If I go to the products, and let's go with the admin now. So I have an admin. Let me have the login. Now if I go to the products, if I click on the delete, I will ask, are you sure you want to delete? If I click yes, then you see the product is deleted. So that's how, I mean, based on the permission, you can define to show some elements on your screen, or you also define that some component should not be visible. But if you want that the component should be visible, but it should go to an unauthorized access, that you can also do. Now we can go and do a last one more thing is I will just go and have removed the permission of view product from the user. So if a user cannot view a product. Okay. Let's see how it behaves. I will go a logout. I will log into the user. I click on login. Then see that I logged into the user. Now, if I click on the products, then you see it goes to the unauthorized access because I don't have access to view the product. So That's all in a nutshell, a complete implementation of role-based access control in React. And we have built this using the TanStack Router, which is a modern way of using the routing in the React application. So that's all I have in this video. I hope you liked the video. A thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter for latest updates. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. Thank you. Thanks for watching.